Hello, Mr. Gale here, and this is another one of my projects on my 1964 Lotus Elan. In this video, and probably a couple following on, I'm going to install an electric water pump. Lotus Elans are notorious for water pumps failing. This is the kit I bought. It's from a company called Davies Craig. They're out of Australia. I bought it, and I was amazed how fast I received it. It took like 4 or 5 days to get all the way from Australia. So I thought it was very good. Anyway, let me show what's inside. Instruction book, which being a man, I'll probably never read. Here's the pump itself. It's actually quite smaller than I thought it was going to be, but yeah, it's kind of neat. Not too much weight to it. Input, output, or I'm sorry, this is output, this is input. Pretty straightforward. This is a controller. It actually controls the water flow itself based on the temperature of the engine, and it'll also control the fan if need be. The way it's set now, I believe, is I set this for however hot I want to run the engine. Let's say it's 180 degrees Fahrenheit, I want to run it. So I guess 190, then it'll kick in the electric fan. I think it's 10 degrees above whatever I set in here. Anyway, I'll figure that out later on. Also has a sensor goes in the pipe. It's going to go, or the hose that goes from the radiator to the engine goes in line with that. And there's a temperature sensor in here. It screws into that, and of course the wires hook on the back, and that feeds the controller. And there again, that's going to measure the temperature so it knows when to turn the fan on. Wire bundle. It's got a bunch of wires, battery, plus minus, relay, ignition, pump itself, ground wires, etc. And of course a lot of miscellaneous adapters for hooking the hoses up, and all rings, and a bunch of other stuff I have no idea what's for yet. Gee, I might even have to read the manual. Next is a fan. This is only an 8-inch fan. It's kind of a small, dinky little guy. I hope it's enough, but if it's not, that's okay, because I'm probably going to set it so it's pushing through the radiator, because I think that'd be easier to do than try to suck it. Because it just goes between the radiator and the engine's real tight anyway, so it might be better in front. If I mount it there, I can mount it off to one side. If it's not enough fan, I could buy a second one set right beside it. So 2 fans would certainly be enough. But anyway, it's worth trying with just a single fan and see how that works out. Now it's time to mount the fan to the radiator. This is the engine side of the radiator. I think on my previous video I mentioned that I should probably put it on the other side. Well, I've got plenty of room. This thing is not very thick, so I think it'll be better airflow, and it'll probably be a little neater installation to put it between the engine and the radiator. How am I putting it in there? What I'm using are these little washers that you would out of my plumbing supply kits. I put one of the small flat ones underneath between the radiator and the fan. Then I just run the zip tie through both of them like this. And on the other side, well, I'll do the same thing. I won't need to use the inner ones, but on the other ones, I'll just put these on the other side of the zip tie. Then use a second zip tie, just the end of it, to lock it in place, and then just cut this off and cut off the excess of this. Anyway, it should be really simple to do, and I think it'll be fine. It's not very heavy. There's not much stress on it. It won't damage the radiator or with it falling off. Anyway, if one fan's not enough, I'm going to put it to the side, so I got plenty of room to put a second fan if I need it. The original fan is so small, and I never really had a heating problem, so I'm hoping this will be adequate, but I guess I'll find out. Anyway, I'll be back. Anyway, so now I got plenty of room. Got to reroute some of this wiring. It's starting to be a real last nest down here in the front, but I got plenty of wires to run for the pump and for the radiator, so I think I'll wait till I get all that. Well, after I got everything torn apart and started putting my piping in, I discovered there's just not a lot of room down here. This pipe on the radiator kind of goes up at an angle. Of course, this one goes straight out. Then I have to go between the radiator to get to the front, because the pump's going to mount up here in the front someplace. Anyway, my nice little flexible pipes are, I think I could use it for the top hose, but the bottom hose I'd get very creative. Now what I ended up doing is making a, you can see it there, copper tubing pipe. One it'll have attached to the radiator output down here, and then it'll go past the radiator and then connect to the the pump just will sit right down in here somewhere. Now when I stop, the fan will kick in and it'll actually cool the motor down while it's with the key off. So it's kind of slick. Dissipates the heat and then it'll turn itself off. Anyway, I'm pleased the way it came out. Like I said, now it's a matter of cleaning things up. I got to get all this wiring sorted out and tied together and what have you, neatened up. So it looks pretty good. Anyway, that's the project, and so far I'm pleased with it. It came out pretty good. I think the fan's gonna be fine. If it gets to the point where it's still running too hot, then I got plenty of room to put a second fan over here. But